This presentation presents the flowchart to determine qualifying person qualifying you to file as a head of household. A person cannot qualify for more than one taxpayer to use the head of household filing status for the year. If the person is your qualifying child, such as your child or your grandchild, who lived with you more than half the year, then that child is a qualifying person qualifying you to claim head of household. Note, if you are a non-custodial parent, the term a qualifying child for head of household filing status doesn't include a child who is your dependent only because of the rules described in Children of Divorced or Separated Parent Flowchart. Please watch Table 3, Children of Divorced or Separated Parents or Parents Who Live Apart video located in your login page under Digital Download section of qsbookkeeping.com to determine if the Children of Divorced or Separated Parents rule applies. If you are the custodial parent and those rules apply, the child generally is your qualifying child for head of household filing status, even though the child is not a qualifying child, who you can claim as a dependent. A grandchild is not a qualifying person for head of household status if the taxpayer is married filing separate return from their spouse. So, if the person is your qualifying child, and the child is single, then the child is qualifying person qualifying you for head of the household, whether or not the child meets the citizen or residency test. Citizen or residency test law states that you generally cannot claim a person as a dependent unless that person is a U.S. citizen, U.S. resident alien, U.S. national, or a resident of Canada or Mexico. But if the qualifying child is married, and you can claim the child as a dependent, then the person is qualifying person qualifying you for head of the household. Otherwise, if the child is married but you cannot claim the child as a dependent, then the person is not a qualifying person qualifying you for head of household. Note, the person is qualifying person for head of household if only the reason you can't claim the person as a dependent is that you or your spouse, if filing jointly, can be claimed as a dependent on someone else's return. Otherwise, if the person is your qualifying relative, who is your father or mother, and you can claim your parent as a dependent, regardless of if he lives with you or not, then he is your qualifying person to qualify you to claim head of household. Your parents needs to meet the dependency test for them to qualify you for the head of the household. Watch a qualifying relative dependent video located in your login page under downloadable section of qsbookkeeping.com to determine relative dependency. If you cannot claim your father or mother as a dependent, then he or she is not a qualifying person qualifying you as a head of household. Otherwise, if the person is qualifying relative other than your father or mother, who lived with you more than half the year, and you claim them as a dependent, and is one of the following: your child, your stepchild, foster child, or a descendant of any of them, your sibling, half-sibling or a child of any of them, ancestor or sibling of your parents or step-sibling, step-parent, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, father-in-law, mother-in-law, brother-in-law, or sister-in-law, then that person is a qualifying person, qualifying you for head of the household. But if the person does not live with you more than half the year, and you can't claim him as a dependent, then that person is not a qualifying person qualifying you for head of household. If the person is not related to you in one of the ways previously listed, and you're qualifying relative only because he lived with you all year as a member of your household, for example, a companion, or a friend, and you cannot claim him as a dependent, then person is not a qualifying person who qualifying you for head of household.